3rd, 2024, and let's at least begin and continue talking about well-being. It's been the subject for the past few days, and I blame it on New Year's because I start thinking New Year and people making resolutions. I remember my time working in a gym and working out in gyms and seeing it packed, registering new members um, for easily the first 3 weeks of January, and then dwindling down. Sometimes not even dwindling at once, just going from full capacity of a gym to seeing the same faces that I always saw throughout the year. And that seems to be the case with most resolutions, that people set a resolution with full faith, good heart. They want to improve an aspect of themselves, or they want to quit a bad habit. And I applaud all effort to get healthier, to feel better, to make a difference in your own life and the life of other people. However, what is it they say about good intentions? And that really seems to be the case, unfortunately. Is there a way past that? Is a good question. And I don't really have an answer to that. I'm not sure anyone does. You can maybe come up with some psychological explanations, and within that explanation, uh, draw up a battle plan on how to bypass some of the things that keep us from fulfilling resolutions. I'm not sure it's necessary, though. What I think is the best way to approach it, my own sense for what it's worth, is at least for now, ditch the resolutions and develop a practice. I'm going to call it a spiritual practice, for lack of a better explanation, with the realization that everything is spiritual, from sleep to breakfast. Maybe I should have said that the other way around. From breakfast to sleep. However, everything in between, every aspect of it can be a spiritual practice. And when you approach it that way, you start to see life energetically. You start to see the energy that you invest, as well as the things that take away your energy, the things that drain you of prana, which is the um, energetic essence of life itself. Everything thrives and survives on prana. Without it, there is no life. That's the value of having a pranayama practice, a breathing practice. Not to mention the health benefits that we derive from that practice. So if we develop a habit waking up earlier than we normally do, let's say an hour. I know a lot of people think that's a lot, and it is, especially if you're already sleep deprived. However, what you're going to invest in that hour is going to help you get to sleep earlier, as well as easier and for longer. So the first thing you do, obviously, when you get up, use the bathroom, you take care of what needs to be taken care of. But for now, don't worry about brushing your teeth, don't worry about shaving, don't worry about taking a shower. You want to go to the bathroom, and you can drink a little bit of water if you want. Very important to begin hydrating early. Then sit and meditate, do your breath work. Sit, do your breath work, meditate. Simple. I would suggest yoga. Not a lot, just enough. You could do 1 or 2 warm-up asanas, sun salutation, and then finish with 1 or 2 poses that will target specific areas that you feel you might need to work on. I think in yoga in terms of energy, energetic style of a practice, and less so than exercise. Not that you don't get exercise from it, not that you can't get fit from yoga, obviously more flexible, and increase your wellness, your well-being. But for me, yoga is generally thought of as an energetic practice. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. She says, "Hello, Eric. How are you today? Happy Wednesday. I am here listening." Thank you. I'm doing well, and I appreciate you here. Um, I'm just continuing talking about wellness and resolutions, the lack of resolutions being fulfilled, um, how we can maybe circumnavigate that to get to where we would like to be, to where most people would like to be, which is having a greater sense of well being. Again, I like using the term well being more so than just health. Health is important, but we have a tendency to break it up into segments, break it up into aspects. Healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, healthy training, healthy sleep, healthy stress management. Um, but when we say well being, everything is already included in that. You can't have well being without eating right. You can't have well being without um, some type of spiritual and emotional practice along with your healthy eating, along with your exercise routine. It all fits under that umbrella of well being. And again, too often we invest heavily into one at the detriment of others. How many people have sleep issues? The vast majority of people in the civilized world have sleep issues. Under um, under rested. They just don't get that deep quality sleep for a long enough period of time every night, which is why I always talk about the value of getting up earlier to help develop that sleep hygiene. So important to get up and get early light. Earlier the better to touch your eyes first thing in the morning. You will sleep better. So again, if you wake up an hour earlier, use the bathroom, you sit and meditate, or you do your breath work. Very important to get your breath work in. You meditate, very important to meditate. And then if you want to, you do your yoga. But you can always do yoga in the afternoon, or you can do an evening session. So if you're trying to maximize the time that you have, skip the yoga for now, or just do 1 or 2 rounds of sun salutation. Perfect way to start the day. And then get outside, get that first sunlight, do a brisk walk in whatever nature you can find. And nature is everywhere. If you step outside and you take a breath of air, you're in nature. If you look at a tree, if you let the fractals of nature absorb you and you absorb it in return, you're in nature. It only takes a blade of grass. It only takes a tree. It only takes a field or woods, body of water, fresh air, the sun just coming up. Look at that sunrise. There's spiritual benefits to watching the sunrise. There's emotional benefits, there's psychological benefits. You're going to find that a lot of problems that we have through the day start to disappear or lighten up, or we learn to hold them a little bit lighter and we prioritize them. We're also inspired so that things that seem like problems when we are out in nature, they subside, but something is still working. And you'll find that we might come back, you might start your workday, and all of a sudden you have this burst of inspiration, where as you're walking out in nature, you have this thought that begins to germinate. And later in the day, it becomes the answer to whatever problem might have been plaguing you. Destiny says this is the key, having a better sense of well being, 100%. I feel that most people aren't consciously aware of their existence and purpose in life. I agree with that as well. Um, and you know what? Let's say the purpose of life, we'll take it back 1 or 2 words. What if the purpose of life is just to exist? Which is a pretty good purpose. It's a pretty big purpose. It's huge. Existence wasn't guaranteed. When you think of the odds of you being born, when you think of the first ancestor that crawled out of the primordial sea and dared to take a breath, and then when it came back, didn't immediately get eaten by something else, and somehow became our direct ancestor. And on down the line, any one thing went wrong and we wouldn't be here. So let's say our dharma, our purpose in life, is to just be. It's a pretty big role. And yet we take it for granted. And we add things to it. Careers we don't like, jobs that drain us of spirit and energy, relationships that no longer serve us, social habits that don't support our well-being or our health. That's taking your existence for granted and not even actually considering existence. And that's just the bare basic outline of it. Once you begin to appreciate just pure existence and pure beingness, magic starts to happen. Because everything you do then starts becoming something of a purpose. It has value and meaning because you have value and meaning. It doesn't have value and meaning in and of itself. No job in and of itself is any better than any other job. What a saint does isn't any better than what a sinner does, with the exception that once you realize your inherent value and the inherent meaning that you have, that you're adding to existence, that you're adding to the universe, then you're beyond the reach of sin. Think of St. Francis, who was a gambler and a drinker and a soldier of fortune before he just got fed up and became St. Francis. Before then, he could easily say, well, my life has value and meaning in the gambling and the drinking and the women. But he was deep down unsatisfied. It's only when he became St. Francis that he truly found his existence and purpose in life. We can say the same with Saul of Damascus. His purpose, he clearly felt, was to capture and kill Christians, which he did happily. No regret. No plan whatsoever of doing anything differently. That was his dharma. That was his purpose. Until a flash of light knocked him off his horse. And he was reborn Paul. Amazing. Which view was right? When he was Saul of Damascus, when he was killing Christians, he honestly believed that was the right thing to do. That was his purpose. When he woke in that light, he saw otherwise. And he saw his purpose, his divine mission, was just to be alive, to exist. And in that existence, you can't lash out at other people. You can't hurt. You can't harm. You're living ahimsa. You're living the first principle of yoga, which is non-harm. Destiny says, the Bible says that we are predestined before the foundation of the world. So our purpose comes here is to exist. You know what I find when I hear that? It strikes me so much being aligned with science that before the Big Bang, there was that primordial singularity of great energy, condensed to the point that we couldn't even see it had there been anything to observe. But in that little singularity of energy contained everything that was needed to become the entire universe, including us. Without the universe, there is no us. Without us, there is no universe. So within that nothingness, that singularity, was everything that was needed. There was no such thing as space, no such thing as time. We can't even rightly say what was before the Big Bang, because before implies that there was time. There was no before the Big Bang. There was absolutely nothing. But that nothingness was holy. That nothingness was the absolute. The nothingness was God. In something, there was some whisper, some urge, some urgency that said expand. And in that expansion came the entire universe, came you, and came me. So, if everything was needed in that singularity of existence for the universe to be, how can we say that everything that's needed for us to have a life of happiness, spiritual fulfillment, well-being, prosperity, abundance isn't contained within us? We have the very same thing the universe has. No separation, no distance between us and the universe. I can't put my hand up and ask, where does the universe end and my hand begin? Where does my hand end and the universe begins? It's too seamless to even think about. It reminds me of the Talmud. Above every blade of grass is an angel whispering grow. So if each blade of grass, and there's infinite blades of grass in the universe, in the earth, has an angel above it whispering grow, what do we have? How many angels are asking us to continue the expansion of consciousness, continue the expansion of pure beingness, to simply expand? A lot of schools of cosmology are really viewing the universe as just a singular expression of consciousness itself in evolution, and we're part of the evolution. We're the lens through which the universe views itself, experiences things. The universe can't experience a blade of grass. However, through the lens of our consciousness, we get to experience a blade of grass, and we're the universe. That gives us a whole lot of energy at our disposal. That means in that expansion, we can create great things. Dream big. My dreams seem pretty modest, but they're my dreams, which means they're important to me. And I am fortunate to have great friends like Destiny who help me come to believe those dreams are possible, as well as offer me that support, again, which is important. So, tying that back, it's all part of well-being. Well-being, as Destiny said, is knowing our purpose, and our purpose is to be. Check that off your checklist. You're already existing. The hard part's over. You're here. You beat the odds. I read just the other day. Let me see if I can find it. A number. Astronomical number. Been putting up a lot of shorts lately. Things that I've written recently, things that I've written years ago. Let's see if I can find it. Sorry for the radio silence here. Seven times 10 over 27. That's 7 trillion, 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 trillion. Those are the odds against our existence, mathematically, scientifically speaking. However, if you take away those odds, which again are just astronomical to even consider, we could have been anything. And at one time, we have been everything. But We also could not have never not been. That's a lot of double negative, triple negatives that I just used there. But it was purposely so. We could never not have not been because we've always been. We've always been the pure consciousness of the universe itself. We've always been pure existence. We have not always been Eric. We have not always been this individual personality. That's a fluxation of energy coming together. But all those things that have brought it together, they've always been. That witness, the pure consciousness itself, has always been and will always be. So again, existence, presence, awareness. You've accomplished the impossible already, right off the checklist. So everything else is easy. Developing a meditation habit, getting up an hour early, doing some yoga, doing your breath work, doing something creative, having a sleep hygiene, that's all cake. That's all easy compared to doing the hard thing, getting born, coming to the earth. So here's the key. Here's the key to wellness. Here's the key to spiritual fulfillment. Here's the key to success. Relax. Again, the hard stuff's over, so we can just relax. Everything changes when you relax. Everything. We're not as tense. Our blood pressure goes down. Our stress is reduced. We laugh more. We're happier. We find that success and inspiration comes to us. We no longer have to chase it. We're in that state of synchronicity. We're in the state of flow. And all it takes is to relax. And then the question is always, but how can I relax? I'm so tense. Relaxation isn't so much of a thing that you do. It's who and what you are. And once you realize that, you automatically relax. That's the key to meditation. Just sit and breathe. Let me bring up something. We're going to call it a day here fairly soon. Let's see. This is one of my all-time favorite quotes. I'm surprised I haven't read it yet. Before I read it, let's say hi to It Is What It Is. Lewis is here. Good morning, Lewis. How are you? Relaxation. Everything changes when you relax. The key to relaxation, find time to meditate every day. Meditation doesn't have to be complicated. Franz Kafka, wonderful writer. Disturbing writer. Really good man, though, by all accounts. This is what Kafka said on meditation. Now, I teach primordial sound meditation. I've been a certified meditation teacher for about 3 years now. I've practiced primordial sound meditation for close to 30 years. I practiced other meditation before that and in between as well. And it's an easy form of mantra meditation. Doesn't take any concentration, doesn't take any force, doesn't take anything other than simply remembering to think gently and easily your own personal mantra. And then you have thoughts and you lose track. And then you just remember to think your mantra again. And you do that for whatever time you sit to meditate. Somewhere along the line, you fall into that gap between thoughts. You fall into the silence between words. Who knows how long you stay there? Doesn't matter how long you stay there. You fall into that gap, and then you have a thought, and you're out of the gap. And you continue on like that. So, that's relaxation. But here's Kafka on meditation. You do not need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and listen. Do not even listen, simply wait. Be quite still and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. Such a beautiful, beautiful quote. Don't need to leave your room. Just remain sitting at your table and listen. You don't even need to listen. Simply wait. Be still and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you, unmasked. It has no choice. Easiest thing to do in the world. And the benefits are deep, they're profound. Every aspect of your life will begin to change. Doors of opportunities will open up. Doors that no longer need to be opened will be closed. Bad habits will drop completely on their own without even thinking about it. Your diet begins to change completely on its own. How you view other people begin to change. Your politics change. Some people might not be happy to hear that, but it's true, because you become kinder, more empathetic, more compassionate. You can't help but want to vote and see things differently when you're viewing the world through a soul perspective, when you're relaxed. When you're relaxed, the soul peeks through. When you're tense, here's an example. I hold my hand up. If I hold my hand up to the night sky, I can see stars peeking through my fingers. If I clench my fist, clenched, non-relaxed, restrained, all I see is a fist. I can't see anything. The stars are blocked. Can't see my soul, and my soul can't see through me. Everything's constricted. It is what it is, says, I got to change my diet now. Seen a documentary last night about the food industry, and it was hard to watch what we eat. Scary type. I couldn't believe how horrible it is. It is horrible. Even the fish have been compromised. Fish was one of the last things Mocha and I gave up as a vegan, and I told her over and over again, here's the thing with fish. They're conscious beings, as conscious as anything else is, because they exist in the universe. But here's the amazing thing about fish. They feel, they have emotional lives, but they can't project out of present pain. When you and I are in pain, we can think of a time when we weren't in pain. We can imagine things being better. We can imagine a more comfortable time. All a fish knows is suffering. When you pull it out of the water, you're pulling it out of its air, even if you throw it back. Anyway, the ocean's dirty now, sadly, unfortunately. So fish live in a polluted area. We eat what the fish consume, or what's absorbed by the fish. Lewis is so right. The food industry is scary. One of the things that changed my diet, and this was decades and decades ago, and it stuck with me forever, was working at a veal farm. Lewis says, I might change forever. And to stay away from farm raised at all costs. I believe it. I'll look around on Netflix and see what I can find as well. Destiny says, Lewis, we have been deceived. And we're not told the truth. And, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theory person. And it isn't a conspiracy. All it is profit. We're not told the truth because the truth will affect profit. And farms are subsidized by the government. It's funny, people who rail against socialism don't realize the biggest socialist program of all, farms. They are subsidized by the government, and we're poisoned. I don't blame farmers per se. I love small farms. I love farmers who love the earth, who put their hands in the earth, who raise food to feed people. But how animals are raised, that's not, we don't view it as living beings. We don't even view it as food. It's commodities. Chickens now are kept alive, debeaked, unfeathered, hanging from their feet for weeks on end. They're debeaked because they're kept in cages so close that they end up battling each other, and they don't want to damage the meat, is how they view it. Veal are kept in crates, unable to move the next change, because if they move, they might develop muscle, and that affects the flavor. You don't look at a calf and think of this calf ripped away from its mother. You think flavor. What's wrong with that picture? I always promise not to get on vegan rants. When I say this, though, I'm not saying it to stop people from eating meat. I'm saying it to stop people from eating meat irresponsibly. Think about where your food comes from. If someone told me I'm a hunter and I get my meat from hunting, I don't condemn them. It's how you get your meat. It's how you get your food. If someone says I raise livestock and I pick some out and I slaughter it with care, with respect, and I feed my family and I feed other people's family, great. But when somebody says I work in a factory farm and that we raise hogs now, we raise pigs that don't even have legs any longer so we can keep them in crates, that's not right. And we know it's not right. Let's see. Lewis says it's a 2024 documentary, 4 episodes. Yeah, again, we don't view food as animals any longer. They're a commodity. They're products, food products. No, they don't cut their legs off. They breed them that way now. They breed pigs. They have little stubs. And it's easier that way for them, not for the pigs. It's easier for the farmers and it's easier for us. Plus, you know what? I remember reading, I think it was, I don't remember his first name, Bittner, who was a food critic, food writer for the New York Times. And he wrote a column that people of a certain generation, after a certain time, have never actually tasted ham. They think they have, but what they taste, nitrates, chemicals, hormones, artificial flavors, they don't taste actual ham. That's what we're eating. It's not just sad for the animal, it's sad for us. And Lewis says, like the chickens, they outgrow their bodies so they can't even walk. Yeah. And it's meant to be that way by the people who breed these animals, again, as a commodity. And not just animals. You know, in some genetically modified foods, they actually take tomatoes and they will be bred holding a salmon gene to make them last longer, to make the red richer and last longer. So you look at a tomato and you see it nice and red. And again, this is a genetically modified tomato. And you think, well, this has to be healthy for me. Look at the vibrant color. That color's been artificially induced by injecting salmon genes. Absolutely amazing what we do, and we consider it food. Michael Pollan, who wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, had a little book, Food Rules. It's just a little, less than 50 pages, I think, and it's all about how to eat. And he sums it up. Here's the perfect diet. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Doesn't say not meat, it just says mostly plants. So if you're going to have meat, you have meat. But here's the key. he says, eat food. And everyone immediately thinks, well, of course, what else am I going to eat? Cardboard? But we don't eat food. I mean, collectively, we think we do, but it's not food. It's a food-like product. You think Velveeta cheese is a food? You think American cheese in a cellophane wrapper is food? He clarifies all of this. If you can't pronounce the ingredient, it's not food. If it has more than 5 ingredients, it's not food. Now, that doesn't mean if you're cooking a stew, not having more 5 things in it, or more than 5 spices. It means that when you look at a box, if it has more than 5 ingredients in the box, if it has an endless list of words you can't pronounce, it's not food. As well, if it comes from a box, it's not food. If your grandmother wouldn't recognize it, or maybe some cases your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, it's not food. It sums up things pretty nicely. Eat food, real food, not too much, mostly plants. Let's see. Lewis makes an excellent point. The health department logo has a snake on it. Think about that one. True. Those things, Lewis, we don't watch them by accident. It's an epiphany. It's how the changes are made. When I was a kid, every 2 weeks or so, when my parents would go shopping on their payday, food shopping, we'd all go out to eat. Then we'd get to go to a bookstore. That was a big treat for us. We all got to pick out a book. If it was a short, maybe paperback, 2 books. I might have been 9 years old or so, and I picked out a book, Teach Yourself Yoga. And my mom was like, sure you want this? It doesn't seem like the most interesting book. It might be for someone older. I wanted the book. I knew I wanted that book. I don't know why I wanted that book. I just knew I wanted it. And I proceeded little by little through the years to teach myself yoga. And it's been a lifelong passion. We never know where those things come from. I tell the story all the time of how I quit drinking was being hit with this sudden epiphany that if I never wanted to drink again, I didn't have to. And just like that, I wasn't even an ex-drinker. I was reborn as someone who didn't drink in an instant. So you didn't watch that documentary by accident, Lewis. Calling for a change, an epiphany. And it's always what we decide to do with that matters. And that's been the whole subject of this conversation, has been talking about wellness and well-being. We can sort of fool ourselves. For decades, I fooled myself that I was eating healthy, but I was cramming in protein because I was training for bodybuilding and powerlifting. 200 plus grams a day. When my father was diagnosed with stage 1 kidney disease, I think it was stage 1, the doctor told me later that it wasn't that big of a deal at his age. He could manage it if he watched his diet carefully, and it wouldn't progress to the next stage, stage 2. Stage 3 being the most deadly. That might be reversed, the stages. And he said it's not really a big thing because sooner or later, every adult, if they live long enough, will be diagnosed with kidney issues because of the amount of protein that the average person takes in. And I thought, crap, I've been killing myself with protein. Unneeded, unnecessary. We do need some protein. I didn't need 200 plus grams a day. That was an epiphany. Just hearing that from my doctor. And it changed my diet. Let's see. Destiny says, okay, Lewis, the universe is always speaking to us through things. I agree. Documentary and people, you got your message. Exactly. Lewis says he's glad he did. Um, our friend Odom's Homestead is here. Lewis, Odom's the one to talk to. This is a person who has great ties to the earth. You can't watch him do his stuff without thinking this person loves what they're doing. When I watched him working with the fig branches the other day, it was just so obvious that the love that he had for plants, for the earth, for the ground, for the soil, for the tools that he had in his hand. And as he says, growing is his passion. An amazing passion to have. God's work, no less than God's work itself. God put everything here to grow, to expand, to feed, to nourish. Here's an amazing fact that one state can produce enough grain to feed every starving person in the world. However, 90-some% of that grain goes to feed cattle. So a few people can continue eating double whatever, double burgers, double. We talked about this the other day. All we have to do is eat a little less. Not deprive ourselves, just not be gluttonous, just not, and in no sense am I saying that we should deprive ourselves and not be happy and not enjoy what we eat. But are you any happier with a double cheeseburger than you are with a cheeseburger? Some people might say yes, and if they do, that's fine, but I would also ask them to consider, or maybe reconsider, what true happiness is. Wouldn't you be happier knowing that by eating a little less meat, there is a child that is not going to bed starving? Always something to consider. Jesse says, thanks, Odom, for the clean eat. Definitely, Lewis, if you haven't checked out Odom's channel, definitely do so. So, guys, I'm going to wrap things up. Our well-being talk definitely turned into a bit of a vegan rant. I don't mean it to be purely a vegan rant. As Lewis says, it's more about I'm vegan by choice, but not everyone needs to be that. Not everyone should do that. But everyone should examine where their food comes from, like Lewis just brought up, because we don't think about it. We think this is fine, this is healthy. One of my least favorite sayings, everything in moderation, which isn't true. Because something that's bad for you, even in moderation, is bad for you. Something that harms the planet in moderation still harms the planet. Something that poisons you is still poison, even in moderation. Something that deprives others from having food, even in moderation, is still harmful to others. So no, moderation in anything isn't always good. Moderation in some things, sure. But most of us say something like that without ever examining what it is we're doing. If you have emphysema, are you going to say, well, moderation in smoking still wasn't bad for me? If we suffered the effects of the things that we did instantly, how much would we do them? If we smoked one cigarette and immediately got heart disease, immediately got emphysema, immediately got lung cancer, how many cigarettes would we keep smoking? If we ate a Big Mac and immediately got heart disease, immediately got obese, immediately high blood pressure, hypertension, how many Big Macs would we consider eating? Some maybe would continue, but I don't think the majority of people would. It is what it is. Says FDA approval means nothing to me now, especially considering that um, how much they, how much other things they take into consideration beyond just, is it good for you? Is it profitable? Is it profitable for the company, for the researchers? I don't know. Everything needs to be considered. And you know what? Good food, we all know what good food is. Nature heals. Eat good food. Odom's Homestead says, my dad passed away from emphysema. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, I lost several close relatives, my grandfather, to lung cancer, and an aunt from lung cancer. So, very, very sorry to hear that. So, this turned out to be a pretty interesting topic. Destiny, I'm going to look on Netflix too, um, and see if I can find it. And if I do, I will post it. Oh, I'm sure I will. Odom says my mom is fighting lung cancer now. Very sorry to hear that. Um, it's a tremendous loss through things like that. And it just, to witness someone go through it is heartbreaking. I spent 10 years watching my mother battle Alzheimer's, my father caring for her, and then it was caregiver for my father in his last months with congestive heart failure. Lewis says, Twin Diet documentary. I will look for it. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention as well, to our attention. Um, those are the things that we're not supposed to know. Because if you know, you got to make changes. And that's a hard thing for people to do. It's easier to not talk about where our food comes from or what it does to us. And then later in life, when we suffer the effects, we say, I only wish I knew. But most people, even if they know, they won't make that change. It really sounds like, Lewis, that you had that wake up call for a reason. And I'm glad you shared it. Another reason why I'm looking forward to the 2024 comeback of Mr. Five Pump, it is what it is, because I just think that not only is it going to be huge, but I think that you got a message to another message. Before, your message was fitness and drive and inspiration, but it just seems like there's another aspect showing up that's going to unfold in the upcoming year. Odom's Homestead says, thank you. She's a fighter. Just sad to see she worked so hard her whole life. Yeah. There is nothing harder in life than watching a loved one suffer. Nothing at all. Especially someone who's taken care of us their whole lives. Lewis says, thank you guys for the support. It seriously means a lot. Right back to you. That's everything, you know, the support that we're able to give each other all the time. That's the whole purpose. That's what gives YouTube meaning, in my opinion, is being able to talk about this, to be able to share stuff like this, to be able to introduce our passions and then have someone support it and greet it. which is another reason why I love supporting other people's channels. Someone like Odom, who has this wonderful channel that, in my opinion, should just reach everyone so that they can see someone who loves what they do. Destiny says, yes, Odom, there's nothing better than a fighter, and I'm glad your mom is one, Odom. I agree. Especially when you're fighting that pain, you're fighting the suffering, and going through that, you offer people the inspiration. Seeing someone who has that grace within their suffering, and you can only think that that's the message. That all of us are going to be faced with something similar sometime or another. And I can only hope that when I do, I have the same grace as Odom's mother. I have the same grace as my mother. I have the same grace as my father. That I can hold my suffering in that same grace and inspire others to do the same. That's the hope that I have. So, guys, I'm going to end it for today. I appreciate you coming, joining the conversation. This felt like a big one. It was definitely longer, but it just felt very all the way around for all of us. It felt like a passionate, in-depth conversation. And I love thinking in terms of conversation rather than just a discussion. Conversation means that we're all adding something to it, something vital, something important. And that if one thing wasn't added, uh, the conversation would be less. If Lewis didn't show up with his message, the conversation would be less. If Odom didn't show up with his message, the conversation would be less. If Destiny didn't show up with her inspiration, the conversation would be less. So that's why I appreciate you guys so much. Odom says, channel was going good in 22, hasn't grown much in the past couple years. Now I'm just kind of over it now. Hopefully just a lull before things explode again. And I think that can happen because I really think there's going to be a call to get back to the earth, to get back to the cleanliness of taking things directly from the earth and not having the intermediacy of the FDA. I'm not anti-government, but I don't trust everything the government does, that's for sure. So I think your message will get out there, Odom, for sure. So thank you guys again, and I will see you tomorrow. You have a good one.